Yes. Okay. Hi, good morning. This is Kathleen Taylor with the Nevada Women's Business Center, and I am so pleased to have a really good friend of mine and a mentor, Dr. Victoria Boyd, and she is going to have an engaging conversation about best practices for nonprofits. So,
Well, thank you so much for
I'm
having
sorry.
having me on the show today. I always like talking about what I'm passionate about and the whole nonprofit sector, helping them stop struggling but start thriving is really gets me excited, and I've sort of dedicated the last 15 years to just helping the nonprofit sector. So I'm really excited to be here with you today, and let's start giving them some information.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, I would like to share your really impressive background with the audience because you really are in for a treat. And a lot of this came from, we have clients that come in and they want to start their own nonprofit organization. I refer them to you. And I thought it would be a really good idea to actually have this as a live stream webinar so that now they have a point of reference that they can refer to, and then a major contact in the industry to help them further with their development.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
So some things about Dr. Victoria Boyd. Dr. Boyd loves being an educator and of service as evidenced by spending over 32 years in public education. She's a current instructor at UNLV. She's a presenter of regular training, both live and virtual, to the community, and she's an author of several books. Also, another form of service, Dr. Boyd is the founder of the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a nonprofit for nonprofits, and I think that's fantastic. The Philantrepreneur, it helps organizations with education, awareness, and resources. A great perk of this work is also helping businesses in the community learn how they can leverage community engagement to meet some of their business goals. And also, beyond her role as an author and trainer, Dr. Boyd also serves as a mentor or a consultant for organizational development and does regular speaking engagements. So thank you once again. Can't say enough great things about you. So, in reference to nonprofit best practices, you have a plethora of experiences. You've seen it all, you've done it all. So, let's start with before a person sets up, before a person launches their nonprofit, and then during the operational phase, and then after.
Okay.
So, if a client comes in and he or she, wants to set up a nonprofit, for whatever, whatever reason that motivates them, what would be like some core advice that you would give them?
Well, just like you would advise any budding entrepreneur, you're going to have to create a business plan.
Yeah.
But first you want to look at, okay, what other organizations are out there already serving the cause that you walk in with?
Right.
Yes, we all think we're so special and no one else has our idea, but nothing is always original. And there are many causes out there that just because you haven't heard about them doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right.
And so you're going to step back and do what is called a market feasibility study. You're going to look at who is already out there in my region or sector or wherever it is you're planning on presenting your programs, because a nonprofit is developed around a program, a problem that you're solving. Every business, whatever product and service you offer, is solving a problem.
Absolutely.
So you're going to look at who else is out there doing it. Then really looking at what am I doing differently that they're not doing, and how am I going to fill that unique gap? How am I unique enough
Excellent.
that I can pull in and service those that can't find it anyplace else? For example, in this valley, I get a lot of individuals wanting to start things for veterans.
Oh.
I almost discourage them because there are some fantastic veteran groups already up and running.
Oh, okay.
And so you don't want to create
That's-
more competition.
Sure.
and try to do the same things, because there's only so much money out there for the nonprofit sector, which is a whole nother topic in terms of when you get into fundraising.
Okay.
You're tapping the same individuals and donors.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
veterans, animal type foundations, all of what I call the common causes that
They are.
that everyone thinks of. Explore, go and volunteer for some other organizations, see if there's a need that they have, and maybe you can fulfill that need. Because I say all that because starting a nonprofit is not easy.
No, it's not.
It's running a business. You have to have capital funding to start it and launch it. It's not something that you just wake up with this idea in the morning and everybody's just going to jump on board and give you money.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. And so you have to do all of this pre-thought and planning process. Once you have the idea, you see that there is a true need, what is the program going to look like?
Right.
What will you need to launch that program? And we haven't even talked about launching the nonprofit itself,
Right.
becoming the nonprofit entity. I don't even like using the term nonprofit because it's so prevalent in society as people understand what that means. You're actually a for-purpose business.
Oh, well said, Dr. Boyd.
You know, so
Yes,
you
that's
map
exactly what
you
it is.
map it out as a business with who's going to support you. Now, there are some myths out there about nonprofits. One of them is about the whole board structure.
Okay.
Boards on nonprofits cannot be paid. You do as an executive director. Eventually, as your organization grows, if that is the choice you want to take, yes, you can have a separate executive director and a separate board of directors. That goes into your life cycle. What type of organization? Some organizations like being small.
Yes.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And that's fine. They do the work, they have great impact for their small niche.
Right.
And so you don't really need to hire staff. Some other best practices, especially when you're starting out, don't hire employees, use contracted services.
Oh,
Because
good point.
you're going to have to manage workman's comp taxes,
Oh, that's right.
the overhead of being an employee, distributing W-2s, taking out taxes. That means you also have to have an accountant and all of these other
Yes.
services to service employees. If you're starting out, yes, you might need someone to run your website. Contract it out.
Yes.
Use a 1099. If it
That-
goes over 600, you give the contracted person a 1099. It's easy to manage, but you don't have any of the overhead of workman's compensation and things
Right.
like that, the taxes that go along with being an employer.
Now, in reference to taxes, could you explain the tax exempt status
Oh,
for
absolutely.
nonprofits?
Yes. Okay, yeah, let's get back into the nonprofit best practices. Most individuals are familiar with the 501c3 status. It's all it is a tax code. If you were to really to dig deep in all of the language by IRS, which I don't recommend, it's not good nighttime reading, but I have looked at all of the language. IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, actually does not call nonprofits. You're a 501c3. You have a tax code designation which allows you to do certain things.
Okay.
So in the state of Nevada, first to form your entity, you would first get an EIN. Now, before you even get the EIN,
And what's an EIN?
employee identification number. This is where the whole business plan part comes, the marketing, the branding. You just don't want to pick any old name.
I agree.
The name should
Yes.
be representative of what work you do in the community, who you serve. Yes, it's nice to have all these acronyms and things, but if nobody knows what that means, you're from day one, it's sort of inhibiting. So pick a good name. Then you file that name and get what is called the EIN number through the Internal Revenue Service. It can be done online. And that EIN number becomes the basis of how you file with the state of Nevada.
Okay.
In the state, you will file what is called Articles of Incorporation for a nonprofit corporation. The state of Nevada has one of the most complicated systems of all the states out there to get your articles filed.
Really?
Because it takes 7 different forms for you to truly have all of the forms posted and listed that you need.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. Besides the articles of incorporation, you
Mhm.
have to file a statement of solicitation, a business exemption license form that has to be notarized, your list of officers, your actual articles of incorporation, which I make my clients do as a separate document that is signed by a officer of the board, and the resident agent. So all of those
Wow.
forms have to be done separately, put in a packet, and mailed. Nothing can be done online in the state of Nevada.
Oh, I see.
So your initial filing is a packet that is mailed. Yes, you can file just the articles initially, but within 30 days you have to file your list of officers. So why not just put it all in the same packet
You're right.
and send it off? It's 2 separate fees for a list of officers and articles of incorporation, but just combine it and put it in the packet and send it off. Now, when you do all that, there's certain questions you have to ask specifically that Nevada wants, and if you don't answer those correctly, they send it back to you.
Oh,
But your first step is to get your nonprofit corporation charter in the state of Nevada. Once you receive that back, now in the meantime, you're not sitting idle. You should have secured the domain name, but you should have checked to see if that was available before you got the EIN.
That's
See,
right.
there's all of these things
That's
that
right.
play off of each other that you have to make sure.
Yes.
So you now need to have the domain or website address, because the next application that you file will be the IRS 1023 application asking for 501c3 determination.
Wow.
That one is, now you need to know, okay, so how much are you going to earn the first 3 years? Most organizations make at least $50,000. So therefore you
Mhm.
need to do what is called the long form, 1023. If you think you're only going to bring in about $10,000, you can do the online short form. It's done online. You still have to know certain ways to answer certain questions. But this is the time that you should be drafting your bylaws. And you might be saying, well, I don't have a board. Yes, you did, because when you filed with the state of Nevada, you established who those board members are.
Mhm.
Now, some people will go out there and just put their name in all the slots.
Yeah.
They're the whole board.
Yes.
I never recommend that, and in fact, I don't let my clients do that. I make
Excellent.
them go out and find at least 2 other people. They
Very good.
must have 3 names on that form. One is president, one is secretary, one is treasurer.
Yes.
With that foundation, they can sit down with them and write
Mhm.
the bylaws, or they can use what I call the launch bylaws.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Because you don't know what you need at this point.
Right, because you're just starting up.
Right, and so
Right.
I provide for my clients a launch bylaws, which includes everything that IRS requires. It gives you the organization outline of how you must function. It
Mhm.
gives you some parameters of when you should have your board meetings, how you should elect officers, how you bring people onto the board, conflict of interest, all of the things that IRS wants to see. Just a few things that they must see. A purpose statement must meet the IRS regulations. That purpose statement must be for educational, science, research, religious, blah, blah, blah. And there's specific language that must be used. The dissolution statement, that means if you were to do what is called a sunset, that's
Okay.
where you close,
Mhm.
that whatever remaining funds must go to another nonprofit.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, and there's also conflict of interest that you must
Uh-huh.
have, and a statement saying that none of your board's members will be paid to serve on this board. And so, start out with that. After you go and work and see what you're doing over a year,
Mhm.
yes, you might be bringing on new board members, but those bylaws technically could carry you through many years because they're the foundation of what you need to do for governance.
Yes.
Most people put too many things in bylaws. Bylaws are your governing documents, not your policies and your guidelines.
Oh, good
Okay.
distinction.
Yes, you need to have policies and guidelines that are adaptable as you need to adapt them. Bylaws should stay consistent and solid, and they're your governing documents,
Mhm.
2 separate documents. So now you filed with IRS. With the long form, it's generally about 15 to 20 some pages long. It depends on how long the narrative is that you have to write.
Okay.
Because they ask specific questions. They want to know what have been your past, present, and future plans for activities. They want to know what is your current and planned budget.
Wow.
They want to know
That's
who is serving for you. They
really
want to know
extensive.
how are you determining salaries if you're going to pay them. And so you have to know how to answer those questions.
Right.
Otherwise, they send it back to you. We need clarification on this.
So in reference to financial projections, so to speak, you projected that if you're thinking that you earn typically $50,000 a year, you use the long form, or $10,000 a year, the short form. So, what are some best practices in how to generate those funds
Okay.
for nonprofits?
Nonprofits have available to them probably 14 or 15 revenue strategies, but
Wow.
most of them only look at 2 or 3.
This is fascinating.
Okay, so generally it's donors.
Right.
Okay, yes. Donors can generate about 80% of your income,
Okay.
but do you have the marketing to reach your donors? If you're brand new, they don't know about you. Are you creating the language? And we'll go more into the whole marketing for donors and things next time on the series. But you could also set up revenue streams where you're selling things if it's related to what you're doing. Social enterprise practices within nonprofits have been going on for years and years. Look at Opportunity Village. Look at
Yes.
Goodwill, Salvation Army. They have stores that they utilize the material that they have been donated to generate funds to run their organization. You as an organization, you're creating programs. Generally those programs have some type of product or service that you're providing.
Right.
Just because you're providing it to a certain demographic, there might be another demographic that needs those same products or services that you could sell to them. That's social enterprise. But also, there's membership platforms, there's events and all of grants. All of those fall under the umbrella of raising funds and contributions for your organization. Some of your programs could be admission-based,
Yes.
not just events or fundraising events. But you could do a program and say, the proceeds from this will support X, Y, and Z. So there's many ways, and that's why you need to develop a development plan, a fundraising development plan.
Yes.
Okay, going back to that business plan. It's how are you going to generate revenue? It's the same thing, except you're doing it from the mindset of a nonprofit.
Right.
Nonprofits really are the same as a business, but it differs from how you're governed, the board,
Right.
and how you spend your money.
And that's it, basically.
Pretty much, there's a few other little tweaks in there, but the funds that you raise must go into your program and community services.
Now, you said initially that it's really important to understand that your nonprofit, being a for-purpose business, should be built around a program. So, how does a person formulate that? Because there's a difference between opening a nonprofit that's built around a program that you have a passion about, and opening a nonprofit featuring a program that you have this type of fantasy about, not exactly realistic, and then really doing the due diligence and opening a nonprofit, and the program is fact-based because you're looking at it very clearly and very strategically. So how do you take a person through that process? Because I've come across several clients that they're more emotional based, and opening up their nonprofit
You're going to love the title of the process. It's called the Logic Model.
Oh,
okay, yes.
I like that.
It was created by the Kellogg Foundation, and it is the model, the program development model that most of the great big grantors, National Endowment for the Arts, all of the big federal funders, they use the Logic Model in program development. And
Interesting.
they use that as a base of assessing whether or not the program is viable and reaching their goals. And that's because it's formatted in a simple chart.
Oh, okay.
It looks, okay, we read from left to right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in this chart, your what is called long-term outcomes, goals, on the right-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this model, you're going to start by filling in what are your long-term goals? What is that passion that you're trying to feed?
Uh-huh.
What change in the world? How are you trying? That's your long-term goal.
Okay.
Where this is in your ideal world, this is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And then it backs into how do you reach that? And so you would have midterm and short-term goals. Okay, so, and then once you have all of your goals identified, then you drop, so what do I need? That's your input. What resources do you need? What activity? That's your output.
Oh, this is fun.
It feeds all, and that's the whole program model. One of the
Oh.
classes I teach at UNLV is program development and assessment.
Excellent.
And that's me explaining how to use the logic model,
Mhm.
how to take that vision, that idea, and map it out into that program. This one model can be used to build out your marketing plan, to build out your budget, to apply for grants, because it gives the entire format of what your program looks like.
That's fantastic.
For example, so people won't be confused that are listening today, in identifying your short-term goals, midterm and long-term goals, the long-term is that global vision, but
Mhm.
let's say you're trying to help people with cessation of cigarette smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And so how are you going to do that? That's what you're calling your output. So it might be a workshop, a training, a
right.
session.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in that output, your demographic would be people who are trying to quit smoking.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've identified that. The input that you have is, what do you need to do that? Do you need space? You need money? You need a trainer. So you're going to identify that. Your short-term goals is that you're presenting a workshop to individuals for knowledge. That's the short term. And so it's
okay.
what is that knowledge that they're receiving?
Yes.
Okay? The midterm goals is, do they take that knowledge and make a change and stop smoking? So that's midterm. So now they've received it,
Yes.
short term.
Yes.
Midterm is they received it, now they're using it, they're
Right.
taking action.
Uh-huh.
Long term is that that society has better health because less people are smoking, or they have longer lifespan, or it's fewer deaths from smoking, lung cancer and things like that.
This is fantastic. And all of this is integrated in the logic model?
Yep.
That's fantastic. And how long has it been around?
Oh, the logic model has been
Wow,
around,
it's
I want to say at least 30 some years.
That's
It's, I tweak
fantastic.
it and use it, but it's one of those platforms that was so solid when they created it
Yes.
that it has served the test of time. And if anybody
Absolutely.
wants that, if they
Mhm.
just email me,
Uh-huh.
I'll send them the PDF of the entire logic model. It's about 60 some pages long. Of how,
Oh, thank you for that.
yeah, I use just generally the chart because it's easy, and I've adapted it to my
Uh-huh.
classes. But there is the whole Kellogg logic model that's out there for program development, which is the core of your nonprofit,
Right.
which is based on your mission. And if you
Mhm.
think the mission is your compass for everything you do,
Right.
there's the compass, and that mission, and it guides all of the different.
Now, I'm glad that you brought up mission because with any business model, whether it's for profit or nonprofit, sometimes a startup entrepreneur may have the tendency to understanding what the mission is, but at the same time, they may go off the beaten path of the mission in order to follow the money. And the money isn't necessarily connected to the mission.
Chasing the money, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, that's why I laughed. I've seen so many nonprofits actually get into trouble because they started chasing the money. Okay, your mission, as I said, is your compass. Everything the board does in terms of decision making is based on that mission. All of your programs evolves out of that mission.
Yes.
Now, the mission can change over time. but it's a strategic decision that is made. It's just not arbitrary. For example, yes, there's grants out there, and grants are getting hard to get,
Yes.
but there are grants out there that will do support for after-school meal programs. Just making up something, okay? But you're a nonprofit that has been talking about female empowerment. And so you see, oh, well, we can get, if we just add this meal program. So now you've gone off mission.
Right.
And not only in the grant language, you have to justify, so why haven't you done any of this before, and why isn't it talked about in what you're doing? You're just going to start this. But now you have to, okay, so you get the money. Now you got to start a whole new program.
Yes.
And validate it and all this
Yes.
other. Why go and put yourself through all of that stress,
Right.
just chasing the money? Do your due diligence and research what grants fit your criteria versus vice versa, you trying to fit your organization into their model.
Excellent.
So take more time finding the money that
Mm-hmm.
is in alignment. That's even with corporate sponsorships and all of the other foundations that are out there.
Right.
Look at what their philosophy is. If there's not an alignment with what you do, move on.
Yes.
Don't waste time trying to fit someone else's vision. There is someone else that has your passion for whatever it is that you do,
Uh-huh.
or you need to tell your story a little bit better.
Ah, I
Okay.
like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that is all on the marketing side
Mhm.
of what is your story, what's your why. So everything is interwoven, just like in any business structure. Most people think, oh, well, let's do strategic planning. Well, first, strategic planning is actually the second step.
Yes.
You have to have strategic thinking first, which brings about innovation. Then you use strategic planning to implement the innovation.
Excellent, Dr. Boyd.
So it's expanding the paradigm of what you want to do as an organization to be excellent and thrive.
Right.
And this is a new day and age. New things have to come on. There's so many, different ways that you need to be thinking about your nonprofit. And the best practices are build a strong foundation.
Right.
That starts with your board, because
Yes.
they are the axle of that wheel that runs the organization. Have strong leadership. Take time to get the right people on there. Then, how are the programs mapped out? Are they done with that logic
Yes.
and common sense, that you're not initially overstretching what the organization can handle? Do you have the human capacity to do things?
Yes.
And then look at how are you building your own capacity
Uh-huh.
internally for your infrastructure. Because if the infrastructure isn't strong, the programs will never survive anyway.
Absolutely.
And you have to spend as much energy on the infrastructure as you do the external program.
And what could you be specific as to what you mean by infrastructure in a nonprofit organization?
Yeah, that's operations, management, and systems.
Very good.
Are you taking time to build a database, asking people to opt in on your website? What does your website have? Are you following the laws of Nevada, in Nevada AB 60? If you don't know what AB 60 is, you need to find out. So the infrastructure is what your operations look like,
Okay.
how you're managing things.
Mm-hmm.
The external is how you're delivering.
Right.
Okay, so I always start with, okay, what do your systems, operations, and management look like?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if it's one person. How are you handling all of the different elements that need to be handled?
What I find interesting is looking at it from this framework. When you are establishing a nonprofit and you are almost in the mix, almost or just about in the mix of things, would you say that it's more of a what and a how question? The what and how questions need to be
Okay.
need to be answered more specifically at
think
this
of the golden
phase.
circle.
Uh-huh.
Okay, if you've heard of Simon Sinek, he created what is called the golden circle.
Uh-huh.
You start with the why,
Uh-huh.
and the why leads the what and the how. In these circles, they're
Uh-huh.
overlapped. Why?
Uh-huh.
Beyond that is the what.
Uh-huh.
Outside of that is how.
Okay.
That is how operations and strategic planning go. You do strategic planning of Okay, so you have your innovative thinking, that's the why.
Right.
Then you have strategic planning, that's the what.
Right.
And then operations is the how.
Oh, very good.
So it's still layered in.
Yes.
The why is still the heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's the mission.
Yes.
And beyond that comes the what, and then how.
This is fantastic.
It's called the golden circle.
So
It's in my book.
yeah, and I was about to. And this is a good segue into that. And I'm just so pleased to again share a fantastic resource, not only with Dr. Boyd's expertise on best practices for nonprofits, but recently I'm just excited about this new endeavor, new direction, or actually an enhancement
Yeah.
in what you're already doing with board development. So could you please share with the audience your book about board development?
Absolutely. Well, in the years working with the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a lot of the questions started coming back over and over. They started repeating, and it really came down to the board's power, or the foundation of that board. Not so much who's the executive director or the president of the board, but it was the everyday board members that were on the boards that were really coming and didn't know what to expect. They were honored to be asked, or they asked to be on it. And you have to think about, in the nonprofit sector, on a board of directors, you don't need any qualifications. It is the only sector where, as a job, when people bring you on, you don't have to prove your worth.
Interesting.
In the business sector, when they post a job posting,
Right.
they have all these qualifications, education, experience that you must meet before you are even asked. In the nonprofit sector, people were asked to be on boards if they were breathing,
Wow.
if they
Yes.
just had a passion for it, but they
Right.
didn't necessarily come with the skills, knowledge, and experience to be an asset as a board member.
Good point.
And so there's some certain fundamental key elements that every board member should know. And so Linda Lyskowski and I created the training, and this is for those that are currently on boards or aspire to be on boards.
Oh, excellent.
And it's creating what I call stronger leaders, because just the name that you're assuming, board of directors,
Yes.
you are a leader in just being on that board. So the four elements are leadership, governance, assessment, and fundraising. Those four things you need to understand to be an asset to no matter what organization. And it doesn't matter what the cause is. Those are the foundation elements that boards should understand.
I agree.
And just think about nonprofit boards rotate off and rotate on. And so this is constant training that they need to have. Many organizations will do strategic planning, where you're thinking about, okay, what is the organization going to do? But what about your board training? That should happen every year also. Every time a new person comes on, they should have orientation. Now, we are trying to solve that problem. Ask them if they are board-bound leader certified.
Oh, wow.
And so we have created the Board-Bound Leadership Certificate Program.
Excellent.
Which is 8 one-hour sessions. After each session, they'll take a quiz, and if they complete all 8 with at least an average of 80%, they'll get a certificate of board-bound leadership.
That's fantastic.
Organizations can use that to help them vet new board members, or it can help them bring everybody on the same page, because board members come from every walk of life, experience, and background, and you have to get them on the same page as to what is expected of them, what are their roles and responsibilities, and give them the confidence to release that fear of doing what they need to do.
I agree.
So that's why we created Board-Bound Leadership, and we're hoping that it can become a tool that many nonprofits can use to have and build strong boards. And so we're trying to build the capacity of nonprofit boards.
And speaking of which, looking at it from the person whose goal, or one of their goals, is to be on a board of A, B, and C, then this could be a resource for that person too, for their development as well.
Absolutely. That's why I said anyone who's aspiring to be on a board, you should take this certificate program or this training just so that you know in advance. what's expected of you. Because
I agree.
many people get on and
Absolutely.
think, oh, it's just going to be meeting once a month, the tea and cookie
Right.
type, you know.
Yes.
They look at it as socialization.
I agree.
Being on a board, you have roles and responsibility, and it is work.
Yes, it is.
Because
yes, it is.
that's what you're there to do.
Right.
You're there to guide and lead the organization
Mhm.
into the future.
Yes, or through the fire
Yep.
as well.
Yeah. If they're struggling, you need to come up with the strategies to stop that, to make changes. And sometimes you have to be strong enough to say, no, this is wrong. And be that leader that can challenge the system to make sure that you're doing things that are progressive, forward thinking.
Yes.
I always like to say, think for the future.
Yeah.
You want the organization to live on way beyond when you're gone.
Now, you bring up an interesting question and point in reference to organization longevity. On the flip side of that, so to speak, how do you manage a leader or deal with a leader if you're a board or even or program staff, if that leader has founder syndrome? How do you deal with that?
Well, that founder syndrome probably pops up in almost every organization
Yes.
because the founder, that is their baby.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hoping that first the founder understands that it won't survive just being their baby. As I'm a mother, you're a mother, we had to let our children go.
Yes.
We had to let them fly. We had to teach them,
Right.
give them what was right and wrong, what our vision and mission is. But then we eventually had to push them out the nest
Yes.
and let them thrive.
Right.
Founders need to understand that they're going to have to let go. Yes, they can still be an integral part of the organization,
Yes.
but you have to trust
Mm-hmm.
that first you have brought on the right people on your bus
Right.
to be on your board that understands and believes in the vision that you have brought forth. And trust them that they will continue to do and create policies and guidelines and vision to take that vision forward, because our time is limited.
Yes.
And if we want that to live on as our legacy,
Right.
we have to instill in a strong board what that legacy is and ensure that they believe in it. And let them go.
Let them go.
Let them go.
And so, what are your thoughts on succession planning?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Succession planning is one of the things we talk about in the training. We even have a whole side virtual training on succession and board membership and all of that thing. Succession planning is very strong. I know it seems like, oh, well, you're already planning for your exit. No, you're planning for a strong future.
Yeah. Excellent. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
And just the nature of how boards are elected, they have term limits or go off. I've seen boards that in their bylaws it has no term limits.
Oh, what do you think of that, Dr. Boyd?
If you're a small nonprofit and you don't want to grow, or you want to stay small, okay, but that means you're also putting a limit on how long you will survive, because once the leaders are gone, they're gone. If you don't continually bring on new ideas, individuals, blood, thought, concepts. Not so much about the vision, but about how to do things, the strategies.
Yes.
Then you're going to become stale and pretty much stagnant.
Right.
That's when, in your life cycle, the organization starts to die.
Wow.
So, what is it that you want? Do you want a legacy? Do you want something to go on into the future? Then you plan for that succession now.
What do you think about instilling like systems such as smart goal planning? And smart goal planning is the word smart.
It goes up the steps.
Yes. So like because what I'm trying to do, at least with our clients, is okay. You're starting a business. You've gone through the whole planning phase with your business plan, licensing, the whole nine. You're almost ready to launch. Now let's take it a step further in establishing some SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
So helping them in, being specific as to what exactly it is that you want to accomplish, making sure that it's measurable, making sure that this is, if it's achievable or, realistic, do you have the skill sets, the components to make it work. Is it results driven? And what are your timelines? So within the SMART goal framework, do you think this is something that a nonprofit could use as well?
Absolutely, because I talk about in some of my training that whole SMART format. What it does, because you still have to do planning, I use a lot of charts. You think about the SWOT,
Yes.
The SMART fits perfectly into there.
It does. Come to think of it, it really does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. When you're doing the whole SWOT, what you do with strategic planning, the SMART, by overlapping it with SMART, it becomes what I call a comprehensive package.
Oh, wow. That's
using them.
I just learned something new. I mean, in addition to the whole conversation.
Yeah, but using them separately, everyone doesn't always make that connect across. But if you use them together and almost overlap them, okay, when you're doing this part of SWOT, you're on this phase of SMART. It makes them connect the dots.
Yes.
And they have more aha moments.
Absolutely.
And SMART can be overlapped into fundraising. Just think about it. Because you need to have timelines, who's responsible, all SMART can be overlapped into everything that you do within the nonprofit sector.
Yes.
And so we might want to do a workshop on SMART.
Yes.
And show how to apply it to the different systems that you have within your organization.
That's an excellent
idea. Or another book.
No. Yes. Do both. It can be part of the, Institute of Learning with the Philantrepreneur.
We can do it as a virtual training.
Yes.
How to apply SMART to all of your operations.
That's excellent.
Okay, we'll work on that.
Yes. Well, this has been just fantastic, Dr. Boyd, and I'm so excited that we're going to continue with part 2 next Wednesday, same time at 10 a.m., and we're going to talk about marketing for nonprofits as well. So, in reference to nonprofit best practices, would you like to share any closing golden nuggets or pearls of wisdom with the audience?
Well, for me, the best practices are create that strong foundation, which starts with your board, with them understanding their roles and responsibilities. Then create a dynamite program package that starts with the evaluation and assessment component first, and then you work into how you're going to deliver it.
Thank you for that, Dr. Boyd. Now, why would you do that piece first? Because a lot of people do it the opposite way.
And that's when they get into trouble, because you have to have measurement. You have to know, did you succeed?
Yes.
To know whether you need to tweak it or change it. Going back to the SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Keep all of those things as the overarching idea behind what you're doing. If you know where your goal is, you'll know if you reached it, exceeded it, or you need to work on different systems. I see too many programs that just because they created it, they keep doing it over and over and over again, but yet it's not successful.
Right.
In the nonprofit sector, you have to realize your measurement of success is impact. It has nothing to do with how much money you raised. And this is why board-bound leadership is also important or valuable to the corporate sector.
Yes.
Many corporations encourage their employees to go out and serve on boards. But they come with a paradigm from the for-profit world of profit is your measurement of success, how much money you have. And they bring that to the organization, which actually sort of throws them off. Yes. They're just thinking about fundraising. Fundraising is just a vehicle to deliver your programs. Your program success, and you have to measure it to find out, is the impact that you're having in the community. That program success, that impact you're having, is the basis for your marketing.
Yes, it is.
That program success is the basis of if you're on what is the total quality management, I think we talked about this a long time ago. Are you evaluating in consistent or continuous improvement cycle that, okay, you do the program, what went well? Okay, keep that. What didn't work? We need to tweak that.
Yes.
Keep or tweak. But it should be not linear, but circular.
Absolutely.
And so you're continually to evolve and spiral up.
Wow.
Versus just staying in this tailspin at the bottom. You want to have continuous improvement. The only way you can do that is through assessment of your impact, assessment of measurable goals. Did you reach them? Did you exceed them? Everybody likes to hear we exceeded them.
Yes.
And then delivering them to your community. Talking about what you've done, but also talk about some of your failures, but talk about your successes, and say, we're going to change these failures with your help. Okay, that was a marketing tip.
Wow, I like that.
No, but it's continuous improvement. You have to, those assessment values are different in the nonprofit sector. The best practices are, it's the impact you have and not the money you raise. And that's why I sort of cringe when I'm looking at
that is so profound.
The big ones say, oh, last year we raised $1.7 million. And I'm like, so?
You're right.
What did you do?
Exactly.
To me, I'm not impressed with how much but what impact, what life did you change?
Yes.
How is the world a better place because of who you are and what you're doing?
Now, in reference to assessment and evaluation, what particular tools would you use, like surveys or focus groups?
Logic model. The logic model maps out what your goals are.
That's fantastic.
Whether or not you reach them or not. You in that, like I said, in that
That's
one
fantastic.
chart, here's your long-term goal, here's your midterm, and then you plug in, okay, we served 56 people, and 20 of them were successful and maintained it for 12 months, going back to that smoking cessation model or idea. 56 people took, first quarter training. At the end of 12 months, 75% were still smoke-free. And so those are measurements of your impact.
Yes, that's
and
fantastic.
Then if you're consistently, if you're building in a way to keep them connected and say, we'd like to reach out to you, or can you become a long-term member of these programs and blah, blah, can you fill out this? Now you're collecting long-term data. After 5 years, are you still smoke-free? After 10 years, was it a lifetime change? What changes have you seen in your life because you stopped smoking, blah, 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 blah,
And that's the impact.
That's the impact that you have. You've made someone or something, environment, global, whatever it is, better.
This is fascinating, Dr. Boyd. I mean, I'm just a sponge and just soaking it up. And I'm so, again, congratulations on this fantastic accomplishment with co-authoring this fantastic book, Board Bound Leadership, The 4 Essentials, Leadership Assessment, Governance, and Fundraising, Building Capacity of Nonprofit Board Members. And Dr. Boyd, how can someone, if they want a copy of, or if they want to sign up for classes for this, could you share that information? And how can someone contact you?
Absolutely. I have a lot of outlets. This book is available as an ebook or paperback on Amazon.
Excellent.
It's also available on CreateSpace. And so you just Google it and it will come up, but it's right on Amazon. You can take the virtual training. It is live at bbleaders.com/training right now. It's going to be segueing to just bbleaders.com. It's being done as we speak. Other training is available on the Philantrepreneur I have, like I said, I have a lot of outlets because I don't know where people are coming from to find me. I personally, I'm on all of the social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. The easiest way to reach me, my name is Dr. Victoria Boyd, drvictoriaboyd@gmail.com. No dots, no periods, just drvictoriaboyd@gmail.com. But visiting any of those websites, there's always contact us or reach out or, some type of connecting or contact form. All of those come to me. The
Excellent.
virtual training, like I said, you can take it online anytime at your convenience. There's 8 1-hour sessions, so you might schedule out and take them all in one day, or for the next 8 or 10 days, take them during lunch hour, whenever you want to. Great opportunity. If you know that you have 4 or 5 people, we even have a packet for organizations that will give you a discount. But just because you might be listening today, if you email me, I'll send you a coupon code to get some off the book.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
That's a special thing. You have to go through with the coupon code with a special URL. But you have to reach out to me in order to get it.
Excellent. And this is a really good segue into our part 2 of our series for next week. You were saying that you have different outlets. You have, a diverse way of people reaching you through social media and online. And I'm looking forward to having you go into more detail with that as well. From
necessary.
Yes, especially from a nonprofit perspective.
Podcasts, people they want to see video. They want to see the authentic person now.
I agree.
They want to see, they're tired of the talking head, but they want to see, okay, so do they make mistakes?
Absolutely.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Yes, absolutely.
Being authentic and videos gives that one-on-one conversation, and you can talk. In fact, when I leave here, I'm going to a video production company to talk about having some more videos for the book created.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes.
Way to go, Dr. Boyd. It's such a treat to have you here. Dr. Boyd was one of the first people that I met when I first moved here 3 years ago, and it's just been just so wonderful being part of your circle. So thank you so much.
Okay,
really appreciate that. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please give us a call at the Nevada Women's Business Center at area code 702-734-3555. If you'd like to check us out online and see what additional live stream webinars and in-class trainings that are coming up, check us out on our calendar at www.nevadawbc.com. I'm Kathleen Taylor, and once again, thank you so much, Dr. Victoria Boyd, for being here today. And we'll continue the fun conversation next Wednesday in talking about marketing for nonprofits. So thanks so much for tuning in. Bye. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes. All right.